Hey there, pioneers. Welcome to the Reflections Cast, designed to immerse you in teachings about goal setting, dream building, and all things dynamic living. Join us for inspiring conversations as we unwrap these topics and offer insights for seeking positive change in your life. Here's Season 2, Episode 9, From Gratitude to Greatness. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Steve.
And I'm Melody.
And we are so excited to get into this next episode with you guys. We've been talking about this for a long time, this goal setting series that Skip has been teaching us. It's brought up so many amazing discussion points. And today we will be going through some of the final points of the talk. And so I'm really excited to get into it. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this journey with us. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the future, but this is the episode we've been waiting for. So I can't wait to get into it. Anyway, before we do, I did just want to take a second at the top of the show, again, to invite you all to leave us some feedback. I hope that this journey has been inspiring and thought-provoking, and that these points have really meant something to you as you've been listening to this series with us. And so if you've got some questions about how this series has played out, about this discussion that we've had, get involved with us. Send us some feedback. Leave us a comment. Leave us an email. You can email us at thereflectionscast@gmail.com. You can leave us a comment on our YouTube channel, or leave us a comment on Spotify, or even a voicemail over there if you can figure it out. But we want to conclude this amazing series with a conversation with all of you. We've enjoyed it. We've had so much fun, and we are so happy and grateful that you guys have come along with us. If there's anything you'd like to discuss, now is the time, because we will do a conclusion episode to the series, and we'd love to hear from you guys on that episode. So leave us that feedback. Anyway, before we get into it with Skip, Melody, I did just want to check in with you. I know that we've got so many things going on, from Pioneer Circle to the Circle A Summit, but I know there's something else that's an amazing thing that has been produced this year that you have done some incredible work on. And I really wanted to take a second to talk with you about it. We'll discuss it in depth, I'm sure, in the future. But I'd love to hear about this thing that you just revealed on social media. If you're not subscribed to social media for Pioneer Circle, guys, get on that, because that's who gets to hear about it first. But there is a brand new book that Melody has just written called The Forest Before the Field. And Melody, I wanted to hear a little bit from you about what this book is for, what it's about, and when people can get their hands on it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to tell you a little bit about it. Yes, we are going to be releasing the book, The Forest Before the Field, on April 18th. And I am super excited to be able to share this with everyone. The book is essentially a collection of parable stories and simple teachings that is written specifically to be a resource for young people. So for our middle school and high school students who are living right now in this moment, in this changing of an age, not only the changing of an age as we cross into a postmodern, post-Christian culture, but also their own changing of an age from childhood to adulthood. And so these adolescent kids are the kids that my dad committed, the bulk of his energy and his work in the world to helping to resource and form. And I have just felt continually more drawn to working with that age group as well. And in the last couple of years of running Circle A again and running the Pioneer Circle this past year, I've just been able to kind of collect some wisdom, some resources, some poetry, some artwork, some stories, all together in a very small, easy to read book that I think is just going to be an essential resource for our kids and really for anybody who's working with kids. So parents, families, teachers, or just anybody who wants to read some good stories and think about some ancient wisdom. So I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to share it with everybody.
I love this. I love that this is like the culmination of all of the promises of Pioneer Circle coming together, all of that resource equipping knowledge that teenagers and families are getting access to with Pioneer Circle. We not only have apps, we have books, we have podcasts, we have websites, we have coaching, we have calls, we have emails, we got all of this stuff, videos. It's so cool to put this little capstone on the end of this. I won't say this year, but it's been about a year since Pioneer Circle launched.
Yep.
And to just say like, okay, here is yet another piece to add to this awesome equipping knowledge. What's a good word for it? Not equipping knowledge.
I mean, I'm calling it a resource, really. So it's a resource that kids and parents can look at and say, all right, I'm also calling it a field guide. So these kids are essentially entering a field that is unknown. And so in this unknown space of the future, what does it look like to be a pioneer? And what does it look like to live well? What does it look like to live a whole and balanced life? And to be honest, it may be some new packaging, but it's a lot of everything that Dad taught at Circle A for all of the years that we ran dynamic living there. So it is some new language, it is some new wording, but it's the same heart and the same goal to help these kids.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's so exciting. Well, guys, I love this. Now, before we get into a skip, I just want to make sure one more time, when can we get our hands on it? And the website to get access to the announcement is pioneercircle.org. Yep. Is that correct?
That's correct. Pioneercircle.org. If you go there and click on buy the book, you'll be able to sign up for an email announcement. And then once the book is live, you can buy the book right there. Or of course, you can always find it on Amazon. So it'll be in paperback and Kindle form to start with. And that will be releasing on April 18th. So very soon.
All right. Thank you so much. It's awesome. We're definitely going to take at least a full episode to delve into this thing as well. But so all that to say, guys, here's your invitation. Get signed up, get ready, get this book and read it so that you can jump into the conversation with us when we have that episode. But until then, buckle up, because we are getting into it with Skip. This is From Gratitude to Greatness, the final points on the goal setting series. Here's Skip.
Number 9, goals must be appreciated before fulfillment. Goals must be appreciated before fulfillment. If you and I wait until it's all accomplished before that sense of gratitude takes hold, we'll miss it. We just flat will miss it. So the attitude of gratitude, as we've heard it called on so many occasions from so many people, becomes really key in this process of goal setting. And that we began to develop that thankfulness, that thankful spirit, talking in terms of thanksgiving, talking in terms of words that show gratefulness before it's ever accomplished. There is a sense of expectation and fulfillment built up in the gratitude of the verbiage that we choose to use. So that's number 9. Number 10, goals must be emotionally driven and benefits bathed. Emotionally driven and benefits bathed. The emotional triggers of our life move us. Triggering the positive emotion is the key. More, we are told, happens as the result of emotion rather than logic. It's the heart, not the head, that moves most things in life. So, beware of goals that are based on envy, jealousy, hatred, anger, false motives. Those negative emotions of life are ultimately destructive. And if the goal is established in order to get even with it has built into it the seeds of destruction. The goal may be accomplished, but the question is, will it last? Years ago, a young man in our business came to me and he said, I've had it with all this love stuff you guys keep talking about. Everybody loves one another. He said, I can build it as fast on hate as you do on love. They made diamond in 2 years. Just to prove that he could do it with a negative emotion. Of course, he destroyed it in less than 2 years. All gone. Everything. From diamond to dust. Oh, I could write a book. From diamond to dust. Okay. Set vivid goals. Define not only what you want, but when do you want it? Concentrate on it for a few moments every day. Number 11, goals must be non-comparative. A lot of people set goals comparatively, in competition with. I don't happen to believe that's the best way. I know that a lot of people do it. I'm not the authority of the world on this. I just find it to be better set on a standard of excellence rather than a standard of competitive comparison. I think competitive comparisons have built into it, again, the seeds of destruction. What is it that will allow you to be your best? And what will draw from you your best? That's what I'm after. My best. I want to express my best all the time. I want to express the excellence of who I am all the time. Not compared to somebody else, not compared to what others can do or what others are doing. That's a difficult one to keep out of because so much of our society is built on competitive comparisons. And so when you are conditioned by and influenced by a society that builds on competitive comparisons, it's difficult not to order your goal setting on that same kind of a model. I encourage you to work at it. This is not about what you feel you must do in order to be better than someone else. It's all about fulfilling the ultimate goal and purpose of your life. That's what it's all about. And number 12, maintain a balance between long-term and short-term. Long-term goals tend to be hidden in a fog of the future. So having some short-term goals, like the more tangible goals of clothes, cars, vacations, go out to dinner, little things, give you a better balance to keep the excitement and belief and momentum building and growing towards the more significant goal of your life. Well, that brings us to Roman numeral number 4. And since this is our last evening together, and I'm not sure that there's a way for me to, well, there's always a way for me to do it tomorrow morning, but I'm not sure that that's the direction I want to go tomorrow morning. So let me give you Roman numeral number 4. It is persist through the challenges of the process. It's all about determination. And were we to have the time, I would take you through a number of roadblocks. And then the most powerful encouragers. And then Roman numeral number 5 would come after that. And Roman numeral number 5 is to celebrate the victory of the process, and that is fulfillment. And there are about 12 separate points there as well. And just just because I want to close with this, I'm going to close with this. It takes a short time to read. A writing by a guy by the name of Unknown. How many have ever heard of Unknown? Yeah, his first name is Author Unknown. Says it right at the bottom of the writing, so I know that's who did it. It's entitled, Dream Big. If there were ever a time to dare to make a difference, to embark on something worth doing, it is now. Not for any grand cause necessarily, but for something that tugs at your heart, something that is your aspiration, something that is your dream. You owe it to yourself to make your days here count. Have fun. Dig deep. Know that things worth doing seldom come easy. There will be good days. There will be bad days. There will be times when you'll want to turn around, pack it up, and call it quits. Those times tell you that you are pushing yourself and that you are not afraid to learn by trying. So persist. You can do great things when you have an idea, determination, and the right tools. Let your instincts, your intellect, and your heart guide you. And just trust. Believe in the incredible power humankind possesses to do something that makes a difference, to work hard, to laugh, to hope. Believe in the joy of lazy afternoons, of lasting friends, and of all the things that will cross your path this year. The start of something new brings the hope of something great. Anything is possible. There is only one you, and you will pass this way only once. Do it right and dream big.
All right. Well, there we have it. I believe this is the final teaching from Skip on this goal setting series, as he really brought it to a beautiful conclusion there with that final quote. I really love this episode and how packed full it is of wisdom and just encouragement to get out there and get going on this stuff. So, a quick recap from this episode. We were at point number 9. So point number 9 was that goals must be appreciated before fulfillment. Now I'm curious if we're going to get to this in the questions, because I think I have some thoughts about this, but I really loved it. So he talked about developing an attitude of gratitude and expressing thankfulness for goals before they are achieved, because if not, we will miss it. And then he talked about using grateful language and maintaining that sense of expectation and belief that we will be fulfilling our goals. And then the next point was that goals must be emotionally driven and benefits bathed. Love that alliteration there. He talked about triggering positive emotions, which I love that idea. Super wise, super current. So I love that he shared that. He talked about goals. The best type of goals are driven by positive emotions because they are more motivating us than just logic-based goals. So it's the heart and not the head that moves most things in life. And he talked about avoiding goals that are based on negative emotions like envy or jealousy or hatred, because those can be destructive. And he did give us fair warning that a goal built out of revenge will ultimately lead to failure. From Diamond to Dust. He didn't write that book, but he did leave the point well marked in our minds. He talked about setting vivid goals. So not only defining what you want, but when you want it, and then concentrating on that vivid picture for a few moments every day. Then he talked about goals being non-comparative, super important, setting goals on personal standards of excellence rather than competitive comparison. And he reminded us that we're better when we're focusing on expressing our best self and fulfilling our personal ultimate goal and purpose. He said that he wanted to express his best self all the time. And I think that he did that. I think that he modeled that in every part of his life. So I love learning this stuff from him because he lived it. And then the final point in that one was maintaining a balance between long-term and short-term goals. Long-term goals can be hidden out in that fog in the future. So having some short-term goals that we can see ourselves moving forward, but then keeping those long-term goals as well. Then he gave us like 2 more big points and was like, I have so much to say, but I'm not going to say it. So the big last point 4 was persisting through the challenges of the process, and just reminding us that it's about determination. There are roadblocks in the way, of course, and there are encouragers that can help us in getting through those roadblocks. I wish that he had gone ahead and given that talk, but we probably have it somewhere else, and maybe we can share it at some point. I do know that he does talk about that in the Daily Disciplines book, so we could always look there. And then the final point he gave is celebrating the victory of the process and reminding us that fulfillment, that feeling of fulfillment, comes from the celebration when we achieve our goals. And then there are 12 points he has on that one that he didn't specify either, but I'm confident that would have been a great talk too. But I'm really glad that he at least gave us these last pieces so that we can remember those things as well. And then he ended it with that quote from that anonymous author, which we did look it up in preparation for this episode. And indeed, the internet still says that is an anonymous author. So anonymous was always his favorite. But what a beautiful quote for him to end this on. I love at the end, he said, the start of something new brings the hope of something great. Anything is possible. There's only one you, and you will pass this way only once. Man, I just feel like we should all put that up on our mirror and then go and do this stuff. So what a great episode to close out this teaching. And I'm so glad we get to share it with you guys. So Stephen, what did you think of this one?
Absolutely. I loved it too. It's so traditional of Dad to leave an amazing talk with 12 points that he did not get into. But You know what? I think it's only because he had so much wisdom on this subject that it would just continue to flow out of him if he was allowed to. So I think what we got out of this talk was great. I think that these final points, though, they don't feel like a particular send-off sort of points, except for that final poem. But I do think that they are still as valid as anything else we heard through this whole talk. So I think it was great to like get them in there right at the end, and then to leave with this awesome little poem at the end, I think was really, really cool. Yeah. And, such a encapsulation of the whole idea of remembering to dream and dream big. It's something that maybe you might start out with a lot of anxiety or feelings of discomfort in doing that as part of your goal setting routine, but it is critical, and it's how you're going to break out of that comfort zone, break out of what you think is possible, and just go for it. So love the talk as a whole. I love to talk about the whole talk later on, but as for now, I do have a couple of questions about these points.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So going back to that first point that Dad made about that goals must be appreciated before the fulfillment, this idea of expressing thankfulness for goals before you've ever achieved them seems very strange. So, what does he mean when he's talking about expressing this thankfulness, and also what does he mean by we'll miss it, miss the goal, miss the action of being appreciative? Is there further context you can give to this point so that we can really sink our teeth into it?
Yeah. I love this one. And I think I had heard him teach on this prior to this particular teaching, to some degree, but I don't know that I heard him teach on this a lot, but I know that he practiced this, and I'm sure that I learned it from him just by watching him. But I think I've also just learned it in my own life through experience. So I think the easiest way to talk about this is just like actual practical experiences of achieving a goal. For example, running a marathon, right? So I've learned, and partially because I use the Nike Run Club app, who they do an awesome job like coaching you through your runs, just with their audio recordings. And there are certain runs that are gratitude runs. So every couple of weeks, you do a gratitude run where you mindfully practice gratitude while you're running. And essentially, you are celebrating your training that's gotten you this far. You're celebrating the body that is healthy enough to be doing the act of running. You're celebrating the weather. You're celebrating the fact that you're on this journey in the first place. Like, you're just like immersing yourself in gratitude as you're doing the act to reach the goal well before you've reached the goal. And I think especially, you know, for these longer races, by the time you're ready to run a marathon, you've already done the hard work. Like, you've already done all the if you're wise, you've already done all the training runs that have prepared you to know that you can do this race and that you can do it well. And now it's just a matter of like going and putting your feet on that pavement one more time, but you've already done it 100 times before. And so the gratitude of like noticing the process along the way makes that end result like so much bigger than if you're just only focused on the end result and you're not practicing gratitude throughout the process. Or like, you know I use running metaphors a lot just because it's easy, but this goes for anything. Same with our weight loss. If we are just so focused on a certain number on the scale that we're missing all of the other victories of our stress level being lower, or our sleep being better, or our energy level being higher, and we're not like embodying the reality of us moving towards the goal, then I think what he's saying is we're missing the full experience. We're missing that sense of fulfillment when we get there if we haven't really felt gratitude for the whole process. Same thing with the book that I'm about to release. You know, there's a goal of, you know, the number of books that I want to sell. And if I am not wise, I will just be focused on, okay, what do we got to do to get these numbers, to get this out on enough podcasts, to get this, you know, enough visibility on Amazon so that we can get to this goal of, you know, number of books sold or whatever. And it's good to make a plan and execute that plan. But like, if I can't look at the book that's on my nightstand that's filled with the words that I worked to write and the design that I worked to create, if I don't like look at that book in gratitude every day as I'm also executing the plan, then I'm really missing the beauty of achieving the goal. Because really, the number of books I sell isn't what's beautiful about this goal. Just like the one marathon run isn't what's beautiful about training for a marathon. It's the whole journey. So I love this one. And I think it's so important for all of the goals that we're working towards. And I think it just helps us be so much more resilient to setbacks because we realize it really is about the whole experience.
Gotcha. Well, that makes a lot more sense than going to the starting line of a race and thanking everyone for the medal that you haven't won yet. That I think makes more sense. I gotcha.
Yes,
all right.
Yes.
Well, I love that. I think being grateful for like that just is a wonderful way of thinking about bringing, I want to say art into the world, but I guess anything that you've put creative efforts into, like the book, you know, to have heart behind it, to have care behind it, to not just want to create something for the sake of pushing something out there, but to create something that you care about and that you are thankful for the ability to express. I don't know.
Yep, that's it for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for that response. I think that was great. And then for number 2, I wanted to move to the next point he brings up, where he talks about goals must be emotionally driven and benefits bathed. I love that alliteration as well. And I thought it was very communicative. But also I wanted a little bit more context to what he meant by that. How is it that we can be more aware of the emotions that we have when we are making these goals, that they aren't something that we're developing out of a sense of malice or a sense of anger?
Yeah.
Like what he's talking about from Diamond to Dust.
Right.
But that we're doing it out of this positive desire for benefiting our lives. What are the benefits that we can focus on to develop that positive emotional driver? And then a further question to that is, how can we overcome? Or if we do have those negative motivators, how do we redirect them to make it something positive that generates those goals?
Yeah, I think this is a really big one too. I mean, it's, perhaps even the difference between success and failure, or at least the difference between joy and bitterness as we go through our lives. I mean, I think that throughout this series, he's done a really great job of helping us learn how to set goals that are positively motivated and that are, linked to our ultimate purpose and linked to becoming the people that we're created to be. So I think if we follow the steps that he's taught us, we're going to end up with goals that are initially framed in this positive way, right? So that's one step. But then the challenge comes when we're like living life, doing our goals and tending towards the negative, which we all do as humans if we're not aware. And then suddenly the goals that when we started out were based in positive, healthy reasoning and emotion we can turn negative. So I'll give a personal example. Just this very evening, before we were recording, the girls and I were going to Taekwondo, and I was a super grump about going to Taekwondo. I did not want to go tonight. I was tired. I'm now the only adult in this class of kids. And they worked us so hard tonight that I was one shred away from puking on the gym floor. It was hard tonight. And I did not want to go. And I'm in the car and I unwisely was complaining a little bit about not wanting to go. And the girls also didn't want to go tonight, but we were making ourselves go because we said we were going to do so many classes a month. And so get in the car, we're going. And so we're all we're doing it, but we had a little bit of a negative attitude. And then Brenna said, well, Mom, if you don't want to go, then why are we going? And that's all I needed, because I was well, we're going because we really enjoy doing this together, and it's really good for our bodies, and it's really good for our minds, and it's really good for our discipline. And we wanted something that we could do together. And as soon as I said that, we were all oh yeah, that's why we're doing this. Well, then let's go. And we went and we had a great time, besides the almost puking. But I do feel like I got a great workout. So that's great. So honestly, just her asking that question of why are we doing this helped me come back to the actual reasons why this made it on the priority list of our life. And those were positive reasons. So it helped me remember them. So that's maybe it's just as simple as, first of all, setting them for the right reasons, which we've learned how to do. And then asking ourselves when we start to get in that negative space, why am I doing this? And hopefully we can remember the true reason.
I love that. I think that's so cool that, something that could have been taken as just a flippant remark, well, then why are we doing this? Actually triggered this realization that made it all the more clear as to what the motivating thing is behind the goal. That's so cool. All right. So this will be the final question of the series.
Oh, man.
But I did want to move on to that next point that he talks about this competitive comparison, or trying to avoid that, basing your goals on your own personal standard of excellence instead of what you think is expected or what others have done. So as we're developing this idea of avoiding those competitive comparisons, we're training our mind to focus on our own personal standard of excellence. how do we make sure that these goals that we're coming up with are tuned to that mindset? And what should we be aware of in society? What are some societal forces that make that process really difficult?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you're right to say it is essentially a training of the mind, because I think that our society forms us to be competitive and comparing people. And that is reinforced in so many different places, from our academics, from a very young age, to our workplace environments, to our sports. So many things that we do, especially as young people, teach us that we're going to measure our success, our worth, our value based on how we do in comparison to the rest of the people. And so in order to be something different than that, we really do have to train our minds. And I do think that it is a long, slow, deep process of consistent reformation of our minds and our hearts. I think that any input that we can give our brains, such as Dad's work and all of the other amazing authors that are out there, just to, reading 20 minutes a day or whatever it might be, to kind of be feeding our minds the truth about our worth and our value is super important. Our spirituality certainly does that as well. I think that essentially, we don't really come out of a comparing, competitive headspace until we've landed in the truth of our own worthiness as human beings, right? So if we are questioning our worth and our value, we don't really have another way to grapple with that other than comparing and competing. But if we can settle in the truth of our worth and our value, then there are different ways of looking at the world and our work in it and our place in it that are not comparing or competing. So I really do think that work on owning our value is what changes this, but I do think it does take time. So I think the other thing we can do is to really focus on the wording of our goals, to make sure they're not worded in any comparing or competitive way, and to make sure that our heart, our purpose behind setting these goals isn't to, be better than my sibling or to be better than that person at work that I'm always comparing myself with. Like if we're already, when we set our goals, in the back of our mind, doing that comparing and competing, then we're probably not going to come out of it. So we need to be really careful when we're setting our goals. How is this goal helping me move forward in my own standard of excellence? And if we write it that way, and then we do that formation work, we'll get there, but it's going to be a journey for sure.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought up comparing to siblings, because one of the motivators behind the question was just from a parenting perspective. One thing that I always get triggered by, or I bite my tongue when I do it, is I don't know. I feel like kids just, I don't know if it's right to put this to words, but it almost seems instinctual to want to compare against each other, right? They just, everything is, I did that better than you. Oh, I'm faster than you. Oh, this is better than that. And every time I hear my kids slip into that, I have a little skip on my shoulder that's you better say something about that. Better change that mindset. So, if it's something about running, I'll be like, well, instead of us racing each other, why don't we time you out, and we'll see how good you get at your own personal time. And then we can celebrate all together when everyone gets better, instead of just ridiculing the other one for not going as fast. And I don't know, is there some not instinctual, but is there something in the human mind that just makes us want to fall into that place? Or is it something that really is just societally pressured into or taught?
Yeah, I do think, I mean, instinctual might be the right word. And I probably don't have all the scientific data to be very intelligent in this answer. But I mean, the birth order books that are out there are super interesting on this topic and other topics. But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, we see it in young kids who maybe haven't been exposed to, you know, a lot of things at school or in sports where they're taught to compare and compete. And yet, even at home at a very young age, they're sort of doing that. And I think it's because we don't know another way to measure our value or worth until we're taught that. And so I think you're doing the right thing to teach them a different way. And I think it'll impact them more than you realize. So that's good work.
Well, parenting is a journey.
Indeed.
Yeah. Better every day.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for these responses. I think that it added some needed context and clarity as he rushed to the finale of this awesome talk. And again, if you guys liked this talk from Skip, please check out Pioneer Circle, because we are going to have this entire talk available for download for those members of the Pioneer Circle. So if you like it, get over there and you will be able to download this as we get into our final episode, this final breakdown of the entire series as a whole. So thank you, Melody, for going through this process. I can't wait to start the next series, and I can't wait to talk about this book coming up. But guys, just get excited, because this is going to be so many more episodes of awesome discussion. But I loved what we've accomplished so far, and all the growth that has happened over the year with Pioneer Circle. So, all right, Melody, is there anything else you wanted to close this series off with?
Yeah, this has been so good. I hope that you guys have been inspired and encouraged and invited to join us on this journey. So it's been really great. And I can't wait to see what the next teaching from Skip is that we delve into, because I know it's going to be awesome too. So thank you guys for joining us on this journey with the Reflections Cast. Remember that your support means everything. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button or write us a review or leave us a voicemail. And please share this episode with friends, family, or anyone you think might benefit from our discussions. We believe in you, and we're committed to helping you thrive on your journey of discovering all you were created to be. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and pass it on.